Evelyn Salt is subjected to torture by North Korean soldiers in 2003 after they accuse her of being a spy. She is quickly exchanged for a prisoner from North Korea. She is led to safety by her boss Ted Winter. She inquires as she makes her way towards the border as to why she was released. She was told that her boyfriend Mike, who can be seen staring at her from the other side of the border, had been pleading with everyone in the government to release her. So, they decided to make a trade in order to prevent him from making unwarranted publicity. Present day, Salt is observing her now husband Mike working with spiders at the breakfast table. Mike is an arachnologist, which means he makes his living by studying spiders. He tells her happy anniversary as he sees her standing there. He refuses her offer to make him breakfast and makes fun of her food. The film then shifts to her at work, researching online the proper way to fold a napkin for the anniversary dinner she has arranged. Winter interrupts, they have a little conversation before getting ready to leave because it is almost end of day. Another agent pursues them as they leave and eventually informs them that a defector has entered and wants to provide them with information. Salt and Winter return upstairs to see if the Russian has any relevant information. Salt enters the room and starts the interview as neural scans are put up to see if the defector is lying. The defector introduces himself as Orlov and begins to tell the woman about a Russian espionage program that was established during the Cold War, in which American children were abducted and then replaced by Russian children who had been trained by a Russian official to be sleeper cell spies in the hopes of one day re-establishing Russia's dominance. These agents, known as K-12s, are purportedly untrue. Up until Day X, the unspecified date of action, they would go under the guise of the child. The events of Day X are reportedly about to take place, and they will reportedly start with the assassination of the Russian president at the funeral for the US vice president in Manhattan the following day and end with the assassination of the US president the following day. They don't believe him, so Winter urges her to end the interview. He explains that Evelyn Salt will be the agent responsible for killing the president as she is departing. Salt exits the room, clearly furious. The neurological scan reveals that he was being genuine during the interview as she enters the viewing area with her coworkers. She starts out by asserting her innocence to counterintelligence officer Peabody and Winter. Winter starts talking to Peabody about what to do because he believes her. Two agents lead Orlov outside and onto an elevator with them. When an agent's cover is broken, their entire pretend existence is frequently in jeopardy. Salt is handed her phone so she can call Mike. She is instructed to wait in the questioning area while they try to decide how to proceed. She becomes aware that she is in danger as she listens to Winter and Peabody dispute. Orlov is shown on the elevator. His shoe suddenly releases a blade and he uses it to kill both of the guards before fleeing. When Winters and Peabody learn about Orlov's escape, Salt has the chance to leave the room and make an attempt to leave the building. She finds herself again surrounded in the interrogation room where she sets up an explosive device to fire at the SWAT team as the security of the facility starts to tighten. She pulls the trigger, rendering them unconscious, while managing to steal a firearm in the process. She then breaks a window with a rifle and climbs to the roof before landing on the street. She calls Mike once more while in the taxi and hangs up after getting their apartment's voicemail once more. At her apartment complex, she exits the taxi after breaking her SIM card. As she enters, she observes that Mike's chair has been overturned and that his sandwich is only partially eaten. He has been abducted and there has undoubtedly been a battle. Winters and Peabody are putting together a SWAT team to go to Salt's apartment to see if she is there while she packs her bag and grabs some of Mike's spiders. She is just about to climb out of her window when they arrive. She just makes it out and enters a neighbor's apartment. She has another flashback to her spouse and certain times in their shared lives as she chats to the young child in the apartment and gets dressed. She makes her getaway and is spotted by Winter as she leaves the building. Salt hops aboard a huge truck that is traveling beneath the overpass she is on, which leads to another chase and her being cornered. She hops from one truck to another before landing on the ground and the agents shoot after her as they do so. After that, she robs a motorcycle and escapes by outwitting them. Salt then makes her way to a bar. While using the restroom, she steals a customer's coat and ID before boarding a bus for New York City. When she gets there, Salt rents a hotel room using the ID that was stolen. She steals clothing and colors her hair. She prints a metro map and starts to figure out how to go to the church. Another flashback at this point reveals that Evelyn Salt is in fact a Russian implant spy. She was brought in at an early age along with a bunch of other young boys to become sleeper spies as part of the K-12 group. She was born and raised in Russia. Early on, they received language instruction in English as well as education on American culture, customs, and laws. She boarded a subway car the following day and places a smoke bomb. She exits the train and enters the cathedral's tunnels while everyone is preoccupied. The funeral is starting in the church as she settles into her position in the crypt. As the Russian president stands up to give a speech, Salt detonates an explosive device on the roof directly beneath him, causing the floor to collapse and send the president tumbling into the crypt next to her. She shoots the Russian president as a result of the ensuing panic. When Peabody enters, she has the chance to shoot him, but instead she gives up. Winter cries that he hopes she rots in jail for what she did as she is being hauled away. She is loaded into an SUV and driven across the city in a procession. The driver is subsequently stunned, which causes him to crash into the police cars in front of and behind them. She then succeeds in ejecting both of her guards from the vehicle. She crashes the SUV into the street below in an attempt to flee as the other police are now swarming around her. Salt eludes capture as onlookers arrive to see whether everyone is okay inside. At this point, the news is focusing on the passing of the Russian president as well as the riots that are currently taking place throughout Moscow. Salt is seen boarding a ferry and traveling to a scrap metal yard. She greets Orlov there and gives him an embrace. It is made known that he is the one who adopted her and prepared her to work as a Russian spy. The Russian spy's headquarters of operations is a ship in the Hudson where she is being taken to. There, she is informed that the next stage of their plan is to obtain nuclear weapons and start a protracted conflict between the USA and Russia in order to obliterate the planet. She observes Mike being kept hostage after being brought into the ship's hull. Orlov kills him and observes her response to determine whether she is faithful. He introduces her to her fellow spies when she doesn't respond, and after telling her more about the scheme, he leads her into his office. After learning that she must drive to Washington, D.C., with a spy posing as a NATO officer the following morning, Salt pours them both drinks before abruptly smashing the wine bottle and ramming it into Orlov's neck. The Russian sleeper agents on the boat are then all killed by Salt with a grenade. After that, Salt gets off the boat and heads to the meeting spot to meet with her NATO contact officer. She identifies him as one of her classmates when he shows up and gets on the plane, and a memory from when she was a little child in the former USSR, receiving her spy training plays out again. They discuss their personal histories and early years. It is revealed that Salt was the top student in her class and that, according to the plan, she will also come out on top. He reveals that the US president will be assassinated while he is in the White House's secure bunker. He provides her a new ID upon their arrival in Washington and assumes the identity of a fellow NATO officer. After entering the White House, he makes it clear that he intends to give himself up by threatening to murder himself as a suicide bomber, forcing the president to escape to the bunker where Salt will kill him. Winter is a member of the men huddled around the president as they both retreat to the bunker. Salt is above them, bouncing from floor to level in the elevator shaft framework as they all board the elevator to descend to the bunker. She descends to the level of the bunker, disarms the guards outside, and enters safely before the door is shut. The president is in the bunker elevating the nation's terror alert level to DEFCON 2 as it appears that Russia is deploying its nuclear weapons in retribution for what they perceive to be an act of war, the assassination of their president by a CIA agent. Winter notices Salt approaching on CCTV and orders the agents to arm themselves once the level is raised and the president is given full permission to launch the US missiles. He suddenly pulls a gun and murders everyone present. He and the president are now alone. In this unexpected turn of events, Ted Winter turns out to be another Russian spy, just like Evelyn Salt. The president is attacked and rendered unconscious after the president refused his request to activate strategic nuclear deployment. Salt has been present for everything. She moves closer to the bulletproof window and signals to Winter to use the president's hand to renew and launch the planned attack on Mecca and Tehran. She starts conversing with him via the glass, making an appeal to him by questioning why he never revealed to her that he was also a spy. Finally, after much pleading, he agrees to let her work with him. The television announces that the Russian president is not actually dead as had been previously believed, but had instead only been administered a paralytic as Winter turns to go to the door to invite her in. Winter claims that he didn't trust Salt after she returned from North Korea because he realized that she had used poison from Mike's spiders to make it appear as though she had killed the president. He immediately recognized that she had changed after falling in love with Mike and was no longer the same person. Because of this, Ted Winter instructed Orlov to abduct Mike and kill him, turning her into the fall guy so that Winter would be hailed as the hero. At this time, Salt is furious and tries to shoot through the glass with her rifle. As soon as that did not work, she notices the access box adjacent to the door on the opposite side of the room. She approaches it from the opposite direction and fires her gun at it until the wall behind it is revealed. Then, in order to enter the bunker conference room, she rewires the box. Winters and Salt are fighting in the conference room. The weapons are almost ready to be activated when the Secret Service shows up and overwhelms them. Instead of surrendering, Salt leaps to shut off the computer, disabling the weapon strike, but she is shot in the process. Salt is unharmed since she is wearing a vest and she and Winter are both let outside. She observes Winter receiving medical attention next to the steps as she is being carried out of the bunker as a prisoner. She leaps over towards him, putting her shackles around his neck and then strangling him. He had already passed away from a broken neck by the time she is pulled up and she is given to Peabody. He asks her why she killed Winter as they get on a chopper. She answers, someone had to. When she continues, Peabody starts to believe her version of events but notes that no one else will. More Russian operatives are out there, according to her, and they will do whatever to meddle. She persuades him to let her go because they have robbed her of everything and because she will stop at nothing to kill all of the K-12 spies. She then jumps from the helicopter and into the Potomac River as he releases her handcuffs. A news broadcast voiceover announces that the new president, Stevens, halted to lay flowers for an aircraft disaster that killed his parents and sister in 1974 while on a tour of Russia as she reaches land and is fleeing. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave your comments below. To see more videos like this, please subscribe, turn on notifications and leave a like to help out the channel.